Well, welcome to another week of In the Loop. This program is brought to you by Louisville Metro Office of Resilience and Community Services. I'm Debbie Belt. I'm the Communications Coordinator for Community Services. I'm delighted to be joined today by my coworker, Julia Dake, our Homeless Communications Coordinator.
Hello.
Hello, Julia. Julia will be, those of you who have been joining and listening to our program, our weekly program, Julia is coming in about once a month with us now. So we're very glad for that because she's been inviting some excellent guests who are sharing some valuable information. Like our guest today is Marty Purdy. He is Vice President of Addiction Services for 7 Counties Services. Welcome to Marty.
Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, he's got the voice for radio, doesn't he?
Got a face for it, too.
No, not at all. That sounded great, Marty. Again, thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Julia. So go ahead, Julia.
Hi, Marty. So can you tell us a little bit about your position with 7 counties and how you came into that position?
Yeah, sure. Kind of had a circuitous path to get to what I'm doing now, which is a good thing because everything I've done over the years has prepared me for what I'm doing now. But I've been with 7 counties for 28 years. And as you guys know, 7 counties is the large community mental health center here in this area. And we're one of 15 or so across the Commonwealth of Kentucky comprehensive community mental health centers. The Commonwealth does a great job of supporting community mental health, and one big piece of that, of course, is our addiction services. For many years at 7 counties, I worked in the child and family division, especially in crisis services. I directed crisis services for children and families for many years, and then made the switch over to heading up addiction services in June of 2020. So been at that for a little over a year. And honestly, that wasn't as big a jump as it may sound like. There's a lot of overlap there. There's a lot of what I love about the work we do is all the collaborative work. And speaking of which, a lot of what we're doing today, I really enjoy that. So.
Awesome. So kind of to go back to the name 7 counties, it's obvious that it's in probably 7 different counties at least. Can you tell us those locations if you know them off the top of your head? I'm guessing it's not just Louisville Metro and Jefferson County.
Correct, yeah. And that was a pretty good deduction on your part. Yeah.
I'm a detective.
Besides Jefferson County, we serve Henry, Oldham, and Trimble counties. We have a location in Oldham County that kind of is the central hub to serve those 3 counties. We also serve Bullitt, Shelby, and Spencer counties with a full array of, comprehensive community mental health services.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So kind of going back to the point you made about collaboration, Louisville Metro Office of Resilience and Community Services recently expanded our partnership with 7 counties. And could you elaborate more on that?
We have a number of collaborative initiatives going on. Our homeless initiative serving our houseless consumers in our community. Our role is especially specific to substance use disorder. We wanted to come in and add that, make sure we added that level of access especially. That's the biggest thing. And going out into various encampments and other, all parts of the community to seek out what needs might be out there that are, specific to SUD or substance use disorder. We want to be able to make that connection first and foremost and let folks know that there is an open door for them for anything they need, even if it's just questions about, well, what if, I come in, what's that going to look like, or, anything like that. We also have, homeless outreach for our seriously mentally ill population as well. And another big one that, folks obviously are talking about that we're also involved in is the Deflection Project. And we're going to soon begin a pilot with Louisville Metro in combination with the University of Louisville, Spalding University, and the Department of Behavioral Health, really where crisis response teams are going to be utilized in situations in lieu of police involvement, or at least in conjunction with police involvement when a behavioral health or social service of intervention is needed. The whole effort there is to divert from detention or hospitalization some high level of care that may not even be necessary, so we can more efficiently use our LMPD resources and also get folks to the places they really need to be.
So I know the alternative responder model, that's the social services model you were just talking about. I know that's a pilot and it's not fully made its way through council yet, but I did want to ask, at least in regards to the Homelessness Initiative, have you seen any successes yet? I know that one's still relatively new, but could you talk more about that?
Yeah, it is relatively new, but the biggest thing is we're seeing more people getting the help they need. Whether that be treatment or housing or vocational support, making those connections. In our meetings that we're having on a regular basis about that, the feedback that, we're hearing from everyone is, the fact that they're making new connections. One big important piece to that is I think we're slowly building trust and rapport with our houseless population in a new way that we haven't been able to do before. And I think that's really special, and that's the gist of what this whole new approach is about. The other cool thing about it is it really is, we've always had a collaborative community here, and we partnered up well across our community, but I think this is a whole new level, It's creating community partnerships that really are going to make us all stronger. So.
Oh, I love that. That's make us all stronger, and I think that's something we definitely need, at least to get us through the rest of this pandemic, is what can make us stronger.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to turn it over to Debbie for a second if you have a quick question. I don't want to be the only one talking.
Well, thank you. No, I love listening to you all. I mean, whenever Julia, whenever you have guests on, I enjoy listening and learning. Marty, I'm just back to like those the outreach that your team's doing with our houseless populations. Describe how's an encounter, or an introduction work? Like, I'm just trying to envision that. Not
unlike how we met just a few minutes ago, really. Because you want to normalize it and make it person-centered. It's all about people, and we happen to all be people. And we share, if we don't share anything else, we share that. We share our humanity. And so making a human connection, being able to, our houseless population, I think, experiences more than most an isolation that we won't understand unless we learn from them. So being able just to connect, say hello, let them know who we are and why we're here, and that we're simply there to connect with them first and foremost, and then from there that we have, services and opportunities for them if they're interested, and to build trust and rapport simply by making a connection first and foremost.
That's wonderful. I mean, if your staff, I'm sure, has that same warm approach that we're hearing from you. So when you do go out and, I guess it takes time. You're talking about that trust and rapport. Like you may come across individuals who at first, might kind of turn away or may be, hesitant to engage, but after multiple contacts.
Yeah, an important piece is just giving them information and kind of reducing the stigma of it all. Letting them know that, first of all, it's their choice, and that and let them know how we're going to help them be and stay safe if they take a step into maybe, for example, a treatment service. Other folks, as we learn about them, they'll let us know what their past experiences have been coming in and out of our various, arrays of service, and help us learn, well, what do you guys think we did well and maybe not so well? And we can learn from that. So really we're partnering them as much as anybody else.
Thank you.
So kind of along the realm, or I guess along the vein of different types of treatment, what kind of addiction services do you all offer? Because I know not necessarily one size fits all, which we keep saying at RCS, but there really is no one size fits all approach to anything, especially treatment. So I was wondering what kind of addiction services that Seven Counties offers.
We really do have pretty much a full pathway of substance use disorder services. Starting with our call center where folks can simply call in and just simply get the service of asking questions, getting information. Starting from there to actual engagement, beyond that to ranging from assessment, and then from there deciding what level of care is indicated, whether it be outpatient or intensive outpatient, which is just kind of ramped up a little bit more with more frequency, more intensive services. Other folks, when it's indicated, we have detox services, inpatient care. We have residential services. So if somebody's working on recovery longer term, our residential services and helping folks get to that goal of having, maybe for the first time in a long time, a stable housing situation makes all the difference in the world in terms of a successful recovery. So we have various levels of housing services, supported housing, and halfway housing. Peer services are a very important piece to all of this at every level of recovery, but we can support folks through the entire path of their journey in recovery. And from there, we hope that they will continue to help us, help others, and we see that happening, and that's a great byproduct. So
Great, awesome. I love to hear that. And so I have two questions that popped up while you were answering the previous one, as it always goes. I first want you to, if you know it off the top of your head, I know people don't necessarily memorize phone numbers, but do you have the phone number for the call center that you could share with the audience?
Yep.
Maybe that they think they need services for themselves or someone else, and they just don't know where to get started, if that is the starting place. And then for the second question, I would love to know more about peer support workers and how they kind of guide people seeking treatment through that process. So kind of two questions in one,
Sure.
but thank you for answering those.
Yeah, well, as far as ways to reach us, 24 hours, 7 days a week. For specifically substance use help, we have a 24-hour addiction helpline. And that number is 502-583-3951. And again, it's a 24/7 number. All of our numbers are 24/7, as a matter of fact, because you mentioned it earlier. We want multiple avenues of access. We have a 24-hour crisis and information line where folks can call in with any type of crisis or any need for information, or just to have somebody to talk to. Once again, all of these lines are okay. If you're not sure what you're calling about, but you know that you need something,
Sure.
call. And that's pretty much, kind of how we approach that. But our 24-hour crisis and information line is 502-589-4313. And then we have a 24-hour child crisis line. But also, again, doesn't necessarily have to be a crisis. 502-589-8070. I definitely have that one memorized after 25 years.
Yes, you would have to.
Yeah. And then back to peers, talking about our peers. Peer supports for both substance use disorder and for mental health needs. One thing that's important to put out there is lots of us deal with both, maybe substance use issues and mental health issues. They can go hand in hand. You'll often hear folks refer to that as, co-occurring issues. But our peers for both of those services who have lived experience with those types of issues, they really are the critical link and connection that really removes the stigma away from those things, and it also limits and reduces the isolation that people feel related to that stigma. And finally somebody can tell them, hey, I have been there, I have done this, and this is where I am now. And there's just something that is irreplaceable about somebody who's been there and done that. You can't minimize that.
No, for sure.
That's with anything. This is Debbie. I'm sorry, I'm just interjecting. First of all, Vince, we know you always have questions. So if you have any, you join in. And anyone who is listening and wants to call in, you can call in at 571-1240. That's the radio program phone number, so feel free to call in. And again, just want to thank Marty Purdy. He's here. He's Vice President of Addiction Services for 7 Counties Services. And we know that the topics we're discussing today, just about everyone has been impacted by, family, friends, or perhaps, it's yourself that's listening has, some concerns or struggles that you're facing. So please feel free to reach out. That's why we're here. We want you to reach out to the radio program and reach out to 7 counties with one of those 24/7 phone numbers for sure.
The other one I want to throw out real quickly, too, is our website, www.7counties. That's spelled out, SEVEN, counties, spelled out, COUNTIES.org, 7counties.org. That has all of our phone numbers, all of our information, and if you just Google 7 counties, it's going to pop up as well. So another great place to reach out.
That's excellent. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're totally fine. No, I appreciate that. And we needed to hear about the website, and I'm sure people can find you on social media as well at 7 County Services.
Yes, thank you, yeah.
So kind of to pivot back to what you were talking about with the stigma surrounding substance use disorder, we do know that there's people, we as people tend to stereotype other individuals based on what we think their circumstances are or what have you. But what is the most productive way to discuss substance use disorder? Because I think most people know how not to talk about it, but what is the most appropriate way to talk about it, to not necessarily hinder someone who's in crisis, and just to speak about it in a productive way where we can have a conversation and it's less, stigmatizing and judging.
Yeah, well, I think you said it best right there, that people don't like talking about these things. None of us, I think we maybe grew up conditioned not to talk about those things, and often these issues have been portrayed in a negative light, in various ways, partly because people didn't know how to talk about it. What we know now is that it's very important to talk about this in an open way and be very open about the fact that we've all been touched by it one way or another, and that we need to own that and support each other in that respect. But one of the best things that you can do, to your point, is to use language that isn't, stigma producing. Like, what you hear, again, what we grew up hearing probably are things like the terms like addict or alcoholic or, drunk, things like that. And those things are driven by fear. We don't know what else to call someone, so we use words that we've heard and learned. The important thing is use first-person language. For example, address someone as a person, number one, a person with a substance use disorder, a person that is working on their long-term recovery, a person in recovery. So using person-first language is really important, and being mindful of avoiding those slang terms,
Marty, when we were talking about the phone numbers, the call center, can you call on someone else's behalf?
That's a very good point. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially because a lot of times that's the first step. A lot of times it's not necessarily the individual who calls first, and that's okay. Thank God for concerned individuals. So never feel like you are, hurting someone by seeking out help and asking questions. So absolutely, other people can call. Let folks know I'm concerned about this person. They mean I'm related to them this way. They're my friend. They're my family member. and ask about what you can do. That's step one. So absolutely, yes.
That means a whole lot.
Yes.
It really does.
So, kind of to Debbie's question, is there a specific eligibility criteria for addiction services, but is there one for, mental health services as well? Can you explain that a little bit?
In terms of eligibility criteria, do you mean more from how they present symptom-wise, or do you mean more in terms of kind of what do you need to be eligible?
What do you need to be eligible?
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, at 7 counties, we're really a safety net provider, so we're really not going to turn anyone away. So that's important to put, to say. But we're, a lot of folks make assumptions about how we and many other agencies are funded. They think we're maybe a state agency or a county agency, but we're all private. Most of us are private agencies that are funded by various sources. One of our largest funding sources is through Medicaid and Medicare services. So if folks have, so to speak, those safety net services like Medicaid and Medicare, that is one area. We also provide, private insurance care. So really, there's a broad array of criteria there that we're gonna help you get what you need, no matter what coverage, so to speak, that you have. But we pretty much match folks up with no matter what kind of coverage or care that they have, and if they do not have any, one other thing we'll do is make sure we try to help them. Make sure if they're eligible that they do get the services that they are entitled to.
You read my mind. I was just about to ask them,
we do a lot of that, and I think that's very important. A lot of folks don't know that they're not accessing services that they are eligible for. So
great. So you're truly offering programming to literally almost anyone as long as they're willing to go through the process.
We want to make it there's no wrong entryway either. Every door is open. We talk about a harm reduction model. That's so important. And I think we're going to keep hearing more and more about that. And all I can say to that is it's about time. So
Yes. Agreed. So you were talking about mental health services and addiction services. Are there other services that 7 counties offers just for people who may not be as affected by substance use disorder or mental health illnesses, but they're still curious to know what 7 counties offers? Yeah,
we serve the entire continuum from early childhood to end of life, older adults and end of life. We do early childhood education, prevention, outpatient. We have residential services for both children and adults. I mentioned our crisis services for children and adults. We do in-school services. We have school-based services and in-home services for, again, school-based services. We're in, I think, about 140 schools in the area, and just a lot more. Really, pretty much the whole spectrum of mental health and developmental services for childhood through adulthood, helping folks who deal with any type of developmental issues that they need support with is another big area of service as well. So pretty comprehensive.
Yes.
And if we don't do it, we're going to help you find a place that does, and we're going to hook you up, which is just as important.
Great. Debbie, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm looking. Oh, good. We still have a couple minutes, or a few minutes. What are you seeing, Marty, as far as the impact of COVID, and what's been? I mean, has substance use disorder been on the rise? Have you seen some trends?
Absolutely. I think we've probably heard a lot of talk about this, but honestly, we can't talk enough about it. And it certainly has been exacerbated by the pandemic. Kentucky has especially been hit hard. Overdose deaths, for example, in the state of Kentucky, they've surged by over at least 54%. I think that's probably a conservative, estimate.
Oh, goodness.
Almost 2,000 deaths
that hurts
in
your
the
heart,
past
doesn't
year.
it?
Yeah. close to 2,000 deaths now in the past 18 months.
Oh.
It mirrors a national increase that everybody's talking about, but we lead the pack. We're right at the top with that.
Are you talking about the state of Kentucky as a
Yeah,
whole?
state of
Okay.
Kentucky, yeah. The other thing is suicide rate. Suicide deaths have increased by at least 20%, when in Kentucky we had been seeing that going down prior to the pandemic, and now it's up again. We also believe that those are underreported. One interesting note that I saw is that one study among college students, who we tend to assume, are high functioning, doing pretty well. Well, 74% of college students reported that they had increased mental health issues, and we know that a lot of substance use issues with that population is underreported as well, and it's also a high risk. So, a lot of things that we need to do there. But the single biggest thing that I would speak to there is, we've already talked a little bit about isolation, but substance use disorder is by nature at baseline a disease of isolation. Folks are isolated by what they're dealing with, and they tend to self-impose a degree of isolation. And they're also isolated by folks who don't know how to respond to them or what to do, and so they become more and more and more isolated. Well, what we all know with the pandemic is that we've all dealt with isolation. I'm tickled to be close here talking to folks because we don't get enough of that.
Right.
It's been a long time.
It affects
Yes.
our work and the quality of it, and just the what we get back from people in that interaction. So we've all suffered from it. You take that and apply it to our mental health population, our folks dealing with mental health and substance use disorders, and it is absolutely magnified. So,
And all of those so tough to hear what you're describing. Tough, I'm sure, for those in your agency, because you want to help so much. So I guess to try to interject some hope there is that you all have so many wonderful services, and we are here because we want people to hear about those services. So the hope of the people that you have seen who have been treated and in recovery, there is hope out there. So again, tell us how people can get in touch with you.
One thing I want to mention about the hope that you talk about, the reason I've been able to do this for 30 years is because I have witnessed the resiliency of people, the resiliency of children who've been through unspeakable trauma, adults who are dealing with day-to-day crisis and issues that you just don't know how they're going to make it out of, and you watch them do that. It makes it all worthwhile. So there's no wrong way to access it. All the numbers I mentioned before, you can walk into any one of our sites. We have over 30 sites across the area where honestly you could walk in at any of those sites. They may not do that specific service at that site, although that's where we're headed. We're headed towards comprehensive integrated care where you can get any and all services at every site, and you'll be hearing more about that. And again, about time. That's what needs to happen. And we pretty much do that at most of our sites now. So every door, any door come through. And if you don't know how to reach, call that crisis and information line.
Thank you, Marty Purdy. Very, very much, very important information you've shared. 7 county services, all the ways to access them. Please reach out, and thanks for everyone for listening. Tune in next week.